when it comes to intensity, what you have to do is not only focus on, again, it's kind of like consistency. You kind of have to you kind of have to improve on consistency, your exercise. You have to improve on your abilities. You have to focus on your you have to focus on your skill. You have to focus on these other things that we're talking about, because they're all going to add these little variables. They're going to add these things. They're going to add these you're going to add these like lenses. Think of yourself as kind of like a scope. Like a scope. It doesn't even have to be a scope of a gun. It could be a scope of a binoculars. If you add all these lenses, right? Not only do you add more lenses, not only do you add more clear stuff, not only do you add thicker lenses, not only do you add filters on the lenses, color filters, not only do you add a thermal on the lenses, not only do you add hand grips to the lenses, hand grips to the binoculars, not only do you add, you add some, not only do you add other stuff to the lenses, like you could add some different lenses. You could create lenses and add the lenses to the binoculars, right? When you add lenses to these binoculars, you are going to be able to see further, detect things. You're going to be able to detect this thing, see this animal, you saw this new thing. It's kind of like a car. You add all these engine, motor, tires, frame of the car. You add all these things, right? You're able to go further. You're able to go farther. You add shit that you can like fly with. You add gliders. Now it's a flying car. It's kind of like, and each skill is kind of magnified by all the other skills. So you kind of have to do a little bit of everything at the same time. Also, so intensity. Intensity is also like consistency. It's it's a simple term, right? But once you go more in depth of it, it turns out that intensity is here, intensity is here, intensity is here, intensity is here. So start off, you have to be clear about what you want when you are doing intensity. You have to be clear on your goals. You have to be clear on, how much consistency you're going to put in. How much consistency are you putting in? Because the more consistent you are, the less intensity you're going to be able to put in. Because you're putting in more consistency. It'll be like if you can only put in maybe like 70 you can only put in 70 fucking push-ups a week. If you're consistent, if you do 10 every day, or if you do 12 every day, for 7 days, if you do 10 every 7 days, that's your consistency, right? And that's your intensity. But if you were to do only 2 days, you have to do 35 a day. So that's more intense. And you kind of go even more precise, right? You go even more precise, and you're like, okay, but per push-up, right? You could make the push-up you could make the push-up like this. You can make the push-up like this. It's kind of like settings that you can put. Gears. You can put gears on like a bike. You can go on gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, gear 4, gear 5. You can make... It's kind of like the gears of the bike. You can make the gear go smoother. You can make the gear go thicker. You can make the gear go... you can make the gear go harder. It'll be harder to spin it, right? But once you're spinning it, you're going to be able to spin. So what I mean by this is you're going to be able to be a little bit, you're going to be able to glide through intensity. You know, if this is your setting, this is your intensity for a bit, right? Till you kind of upgrade. So once you upgrade it, once you start commencing this, you know, it'll take time for you to get there. So number 2 is you have to be clear on you have to be more clear on what intensity is for you. Where do you find intensity? Where do you find it in here? Do you find it here? Do you find it here? Where it's like, what is intensity to you? You know, be more clear. Be more clear on the terms you use. Be more clear on the words that are said. You know, be more clear on what this is, because once you're more clear on it, once you kind of examine, you're kind of like, what is this, right? You're more able to be like, okay, this is what it means, right? And then you're going to be able to communicate more. You're going to be able, even with yourself, you're going to be like, okay, this is what this means, this means, this means, this means, this means. You're going to be able to connect things. Power line to power line to power line to power line, right? Transfer of communication, the transfer of message in between you, right? So once this happens, you're going to be able to pronounce messages to yourself, you know, like A, B. You're going to have to be able to go through the alphabet quicker. So once you're able to do this, okay, so number 3 is you have to deepen your understanding on consistency. Intensity and consistency are the same. Consistency, they are the same and alike, but they are different. What I mean by this is intensity is kind of like consistency. Like your intensity, it's kind of like an X and Y axis, where the more X you have consistency, the less Y you can have. So it kind of turns out to be like a one of those like exponential decay graphs. And the more consistency you have, the less intensity you can have, right? So they're connected. They are alike. They're like they're like the input and the output, but it's kind of like, to be consistent I have to work, to be intense I have to work. That's the way that they are alike, but they are also different, because consistency is more like, I'm going to get at it again and again and again. Intensity is kind of more like, I'm going to steep. It's kind of like a tea. Like, I'm going to make the water more hot, and then I'm going to steep my tea. Intensity is kind of like that. Like, I'm going to do more work per capita of consistency unit I have. So that's how they are different. And when you configure both of these instruments, right? Both of these skills, that's when you're going to be able to get outputs out, because you have input. When you have consistency, like let's say you have level 2 consistency and you have level 2 intensity, where you're going to get a level 2 outcome on your XY graph, right? And also you have to understand your load management. You have to understand when you need to rest, right? You have to understand how to rest. You have to understand, you know, should I rest now or should I rest later? You have to understand more of this, because you're going to be able to intersect the intensity and the consistency with rest. Because consistency also, I didn't mention in the last video because I didn't want people to focus on it there. But when it comes to intensity, I want you to focus on it. I want you to focus on it with, I want you to understand that you need rest. Because if you don't rest, what you're doing is you're working, you may overwork yourself. And depending on like your work experience in the past, if you're older, if you're younger, like primarily if you're kind of like in high school or even middle school, you have to kind of make sure that you're resting, because you need to make sure that you're sleeping. You have to make sure that you're kind of like drinking water after you work out. You have to make sure that you're any kind of way, any way you think you, any way you rest, right? Go rest. Go put some like ice pads on you. You have to make sure of that. And because what rest does is it allows you to be consistent, right? But this only really matters when you're kind of being more intense. Like you could, like I said, you could reframe the way you look at life. You could reframe the way you look at things and be like, oh, I only look at it through intensity, right? So I go intense, right? You could look at it that way, you know? But with intensity, you need rest. You could look at it, there's only consistency, right? Boom, consistency. But the way I like consistency and intensity because it gives you more of like more settings, more adjustment to what you can be doing, you know? If I say I'm gonna be like, if I say let me find, like, if I say I'm gonna position myself to have a higher skill level and intensity and higher skill level and consistency, okay, so let me kind of do what's in the middle so I can do both, right? It's kind of like what's in the middle. And another thing with intensity is, do not, like, when you have to have more experience with goal setting. Because if you set very ambitious goals, you can set very ambitious goals at the beginning, right? And if you don't have enough, like, if you don't have enough goals, like if you don't have enough, like, goal skill, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to set these goals that are a little bit out of the park. Like, say you're playing baseball. They're a little out of the park, right? They're not in the ballpark. And what I mean by this is you don't get discouraged by if you don't get a goal, right? Don't be discouraged by that. But what I want you to do is I want you to focus on positioning yourself, meaning you're increasing your skill level. Because it's when you increase your skill level that you're able to do things. It's not by you setting a goal that enables you to do things. That's how you're going to be able to do it. It's more or less you increasing your skills that are going to enable you to do it. You know? It's kind of like the engineering behind you getting this goal, rather than you setting a goal and then saying the goal is going to do the engineering for me, or just because I set this goal, I'm gonna have the engineering of myself do it for me. Like, you have ways of growth. You have more skill to get. You have more skill to develop. You have all this, right? You need this, okay? So that's kind of what I mean. Like, you need to rest, and you need to not set super ambitious goals, right? Because when you don't set super ambitious goals, you're able to be more consistent and intense and recuperate more. You're going to be able to recuperate more. Boom, boom, boom. And when more recuperation, there's more input. And when there's more input, there's more output. So just keep that in mind, guys. Also, let me know if you need any more. Let me know if you need any more advice on intensity. I'd be sure to give it to you. If you have any questions on intensity, thank you.